Welcome to today's Wildcard workout. A few keys to keep in mind as we do today's workout. First off is going to be alignment. I'll be coaching a lot of different specific components to the techniques of each exercise, encouraging you to keep them in mind throughout your workout. Secondly, tempo. Controlling the speed of your movements so that we're moving slowly through most of our strength training exercises, and we'll pick the pace up with our cardiovascular heart rate oriented exercises. And lastly, quality over quantity. While I'm going to recommend a certain number of repetitions, I'd rather see you get the absolute most out of each exercise that you do, having to stop short initially, and as you get stronger and more fit, you'll be able to get more reps out as you go along. But please honor that voice inside your head about how your body's feeling. If something doesn't feel right, stop and take the break. When conducting the push-up, I'm going to have you begin by laying down on the floor. Your chest, abdomen, and hips should all be in contact with the ground. Hands should be about shoulder width apart. And wherever your elbows feel more comfortable, either alongside your body or out to the side, is fine. From here, engaging your abdomen by pulling your belly button up off the floor, squeezing your butt cheeks, and if you're strong enough, keep those knees straight and push straight up through the movement until your arms are fully extended. Repeating on the way back down. If you are struggling with that variety and can't get off the floor, keep those knees bent this time, engage the abdomen, squeeze the cheeks, and push up again, extending the arms completely while keeping your knees on the floor. For the inchworm walkout, begin in plank position or the top of your push-up position. The exercise will be conducted by walking your hands backward until you're stretching the backs of your thighs, trying to keep your spine nice and neutral, and then walking your hands forward as far as you can without losing traction either at your hands or your feet, as well as being aware that as you walk out in this exercise, it'll put additional stress on your abdomen, and so only going out as far as your abdomen can support you, not causing lower back pain. The Sphinx is performed from the push-up position. Feet can be shoulder width apart, narrower to make it a little more difficult, or wider to make it a little bit easier. The key with Sphinx is lowering yourself down onto your forearms and picking yourself back up. At all times, trying to minimize the amount of motion that's happening through the hips, trying to resist any kind of rotational movement through the body. Unlike our traditional push-up, down dog push-up is done with about a 90-degree position at your hips. Your arms are going to be outstretched alongside your ears, and you'll be getting a light stretch through the backs of your lower legs and backs of your thighs. From here, bending at the elbows, bending at the shoulders, lowering your head towards the ground, but still keeping that same alignment, pushing your way back up, lowering yourself back down, and repeating. As opposed to our traditional push-up, which focuses in on the chest, this is going to get your shoulders a lot more. When executing the squat, begin in a standing position with your feet underneath your shoulders. From here, you're bending at the hips, bending at the knees, and raising your arms in front of you or across your chest in order to serve as a counterbalance. Notice that as I squat down, my knees stay out over my ankles and feet, never deviating in this case here. Keeping them out by activating my glutes. From the side, you'll also notice keeping most of my weight on my heels and then pushing my hips as far back as I can. That's going to protect my knees and it's going to allow me to engage my hips and butt more. The reverse lunge will be executed by stepping back so that as you lower your back knee to the ground, you are in approximately a 90-degree bend at both knees. Stepping forward by powering off that forward leg. Done again, that reverse lunge is a controlled movement emphasizing the strength, power, and stability on that forward hip. Another variation, if you're looking for a more advanced option, will be a switch lunge, where we're going to start in this bottom position, jumping and switching feet. So you are lunging both legs at the same instant, as well as having a little flight phase in there to make it just a little bit tougher. Side lunge begins in a standing position. You'll be stepping off to one side, loading that squatted leg. Same technique as in our squat, keeping that knee out over the foot and ankle, pushing the hips as far back as you can, and powering back up to the middle. The monkey squat is executed very much like our traditional squat, with the major exception being that you are reaching with your arms to hold on as low in your lower legs as you are able. In my case, I'll be standing just a little bit wider, holding onto my ankles and keeping my spine in a neutral position. As I elevate my hips, I straighten my knees, I'm adding a stretch to those hamstrings before returning back down into that low squatted position. Seen from the side, same exercise, squatting down, grabbing hold of my ankles, I'm extending my knees, keeping that neutral spine, and then returning back down to that squat position. Up and down. The jumping jack is performed, beginning in a standing position with your hands to your sides and your feet side by side. From here, slight bend in the knees, core is engaged, and I'm leaping off the floor only long enough to get my feet out about hip and shoulder width apart and my arms out overhead. On my next jump, everything returns back to the starting position. High knees will be executed just like running in place, where you're working to pick up your knees, but in this instance, trying to get the knees above the height of your hips. For anybody with concerns about orthopedics for their ankles, their knees, their low backs, perhaps just picking those knees up above the hip height without the impact of landing. Skater hop begins in a standing position, bending at the hips and knees, leaping to one side, and then back to the other. The intention of this movement is to land and balance on one leg, bending as deep as you can in the hip and knee before jumping to the opposite side. To advance this movement, work on jumping farther and landing lower. Power jumpers begin in a standing position, squatting down low, making contact with the ground if you're able, and from here exploding up, reaching overhead while jumping off the ground. Again, touching the ground if able, keeping your spine in that neutral position, jumping and landing softly by absorbing weight into your ankles, knees, and hips.
Let's do that one again.
Okay?
Go.
The power jumper is executed from a standing position, squatting down low, attempting to touch the ground if you're able, keeping your spine in a neutral position, and extending your arms, knees, hips up as you reach for the ceiling, landing softly again and repeating into the next repetition. Keep in mind on this one, as you are coming back down to a landing, please try to land softly, absorbing the impact into your ankles, knees, and hips to slow down your landing. The burpee may be one of people's least or most favorite exercises. We're going to go from this one from a standing position, working our way down into a nice low squat, getting our hands to the floor, and extending our legs out into a push-up position. That same transition can be done 2 legs at a time, jumping out into that push-up position before lowering ourselves to the ground, hips, chest, abdomen all coming in contact with the ground before pushing back up, leaping or stepping those legs back in, standing up to a hop at the top. At full speed, this movement looks more like this. Prone rower begins lying face down with your head in contact with the floor or mat. Your feet are together, and again, arms extended out overhead. From here, you're going to engage those lower back and butt muscles, lifting your chest and knees off of the floor while squeezing your elbows alongside your body, extending those arms back out overhead and lowering back down. That's 1 repetition. Lifting again, squeezing those elbows beside your shoulders and back down. The swimmer is conducted in the same position as the prone rower, with your head down and spine in a neutral position, laying face down. You'll be raising opposite arm and leg as high as you're able before lowering them and lifting to the other side. If this exercise is not challenging enough for you, feel free to add all 4 limbs up at one time, as in the Superman. Lifting the chest, lifting the knees, lowering them back down. The V-in is conducted while laying on your back in a supine position. From here, you're engaging your abdomen and your hip flexors to try and pull your body up into a V-shaped position, resting on your tailbone and sitting bones. This same exercise done with bent knees is referred to as a V-in. With straight knees, a little bit more difficult and advanced, referred to as a V-up. For the Russian twist, begin in the same seated position that we work up to in the V-ins or V-ups. Also, resting weight onto your tailbone and onto your sitting bones, and working to reach to one side of your body and the other from as reclined a position as you are able to maintain without rounding your spine. If you lean back too far, you will find yourself flexing at the spine, dropping your head forward. I'd like you to stay extended through your spine while you rotate. To advance this exercise, you can recline further back, you can bring those feet off the ground, or even extend the knees and work from here.